Greetings and welcome. I'm Rebecca Carner, Biofield tuner. Today's topic is well-being, your wellness. Wellness is acoustic. Its very nature and quality is acoustic. That's, you may think, yeah, Rebecca, well, that's pretty convenient for you to say because you're a sound healer. But I'm a sound healer. I was drawn to this because of the truth of the application of the frequencies. And when I first experienced it, its resonance, I mean, today, today is just going to be intended pun after intended pun after intended pun, because they're not puns. Like, I'm not poking fun at this stuff. The words that we use across languages, of course, well, everything that I'm going to say today will be in English, likely. But across languaging, across cultures, and across time, these acoustic, sonic, tonal references are repeated because they are true. They aren't just metaphor or poetry. They are 100% describing what is. I guess I will start with a little bit of words, and then we will drop into the tuning and the transmission. Recently, my sister told me a sort of long and involved story about Dalmatian dogs, the breed, and that she had, and I haven't fact checked this, I just took her sort of word for it, but that the breed Dalmatians had been long, and since their sort of inception and cultivation, had been associated with horses, and that they were, as a breed, companion mates to horses, and were often found historically standing guard on posted horses and that sort of thing, which is why they then became associated with firehouses, because early firehouses were drawn by horses. And so that they would have dogs in the stables of the original firehouses, of the, water wagons that they would carry. And her sort of ending comment on the whole story was, I really like it when I see breeds doing literally what they're sort of innately designed to do. And she used the words, I feel like they're singing the song of their people. And that is, in fact, very poetic language. But when she said it, like, I knew exactly what she meant. And being and living and embodying the song of your people, oh, this is bringing up emotion. I mean, that's what we're all here doing, not just the Dalmatians, adorable as they are. And being able to, in real time, imprint, the word edit wants to come, but evolve the song of one's own people, the legacy song. Oh, funny how my voice just went out just a little bit just there, right? Yeah. Let's take a breath together. Wow, this is, I was feeling today's video, but man, now that I'm in the field, it is deep and wide, friends. Thank you for joining. It is an honor and a joy to be here with you. As always, but ever deepeningly so. Oh, let's breathe your own rhythmic breathing. If you have the capacity to fully and lovingly breathe in through your nose, and exhale either through your nose as your mouth, or your mouth, whatever feels right for you. Let us land in our resonant current present state. Yeah. And start to listen in. Start to listen in. Listen to our present space, both our most proximate surrounding space and our present space, our present inner landscape, right? Wellness, our well beingness is acoustic. In American legal doctrine and legalese, being of, quote, sound mind and body. If one is not of sound mind and body, one doesn't legally have the agency over self, right? That is the determining factor. Being of sound mind and body. Again, this there is very little less poetic and less metaphorical than legalese, right? And this is how over time they have chosen to define that legally: sound mind and body. Bruce Lipton, our biography becomes our biology, the story, the narrative that we tell, the meanings that we create and associate, those are all acoustic. They are concepts that even if we never tell our story, we tell it in our minds, right? It is internal acoustics. And these imprint DNA expression, right? To express is acoustic, even if you express yourself through fiber arts or through dance or through the plastic arts like painting or sculpture. Expression, by its definition, has resonant frequency, because even a sculpture, right, the curvilinear lines, the casting of the metals, or the building of the clay, or the polymers, or whatever you make it with, creates design in frequency, right? It creates a pattern in space which will have a resonant frequency cellularly, right? The sort of bumbling around of the 6 trillion cells that are us. There are acoustics in that. Our reticular activation system that is in the base of our brainstem, that literally determines whether we are awake or asleep, and how we filter the stimuli, the sensory input around us, for us to navigate. And yes, some of the sensories are felt sense and smelled sense, and that sort of thing, to be sure, but much of it is acoustic. We can close our mouths and we can close our eyes, and you can kind of pinch your nose a little bit, but you can't close your ears, right? Because beingness is acoustic at its fundament. We have calcium and crystalline stones, rods, they're really lovely, that are equilibrium compasses in our ears, and that is how we navigate what we call space and time. And our orientation and our fundamental motivational orientation through that is acoustic. Shoes. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. Wow, I really just recently, in recent times, so many of these YouTube lives have been contemplations which I have shared whilst sharing tone, but in a way that I haven't done in kind of a while. I'm going to drop into a collective tuning and transmission. The last sort of thing that wants to come out verbally right now is, in recent times, my in-person public group work, much of it has been what I have termed an octavation, right? So that every person in real time who is in the space, and these are community collective experiences, but that no matter sort of where you are, that you are then harmonized and clarified and cohered to what for you would be sort of your next increment, an octave, if you will. And so each person on this video now, and each person who finds this video exactly and perfectly when they find it, may you receive your harmonization for your next incremental clarification. Y'all, the fear, the pain, I feel it. The heaviness, it's such an interesting mix. I mean, those of us who make room for our emotions, right? And then those of us who are under the oppressive ruse that suppressing emotion and staying stoically not loud is regulated emotion. It isn't. And so too, there is fatigue, there is fear, and there is also fear of the out there, but also fear of, if I truly listen to the song of my people, if I listen to the song in my heart right now, I may surely be overwhelmed. We are here. There are people around you to hold you and love you. There are supporting forces. It may feel big and it may overtake you for a moment, but you will not be overwhelmed, and it will not lead to demise. It will lead to opening and light. Yes. Good. Mm-hmm. 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 The dampening. How can we listen to self if we've turned down the signals, right? Gently, gently, gently tuning in. Gently, gently, slowly titrating. Slowly reducing the amount of signal dampening. Things we have in our life, right? we can dampen signals, we can right? Like, I'm getting a little vision of like, "La, la, 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 la." Right? Right, okay, so, like, there's a the infinite, right? Just about infinite. There are infinite ways that we can turn a deaf ear to something, right? It's not just, biologics that literally are immunosuppressors, right? Turn down the signal of your immune system, right? I mean, yes, there is much pharma and medication that reduces signaling. Alcohol, cannabis, any number of drugs, recreational, sugar, food, carbs, and I mean anything in overabundance thereof, right? Anything in out of balance, any of these things in balance. I'm not demonizing any of the things, but one can use almost anything to dampen a signal, right? It can be behavioral. But if we reduce those things, right? If we reduce the scrolling, if we reduce the distractions, if we reduce the video input of all qualities in nature, and are left with fear, loneliness, discomfort, uncertainty, those are the signals. And then when we are with them, they will not overwhelm us. Those are the signals, those are the tonal inputs that are giving us the needed information of what our heart is needing, what our organism is in deficit of. And it's only if we hear the signal that we can respond to the signal, right? Not by turning it off, but by satisfying it. There. Wow, a huge wave of heat off of the back. Wowza. That's right. Wow, 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 wow. So much courage, so much earnesty and effort. Yeah, yeah. I know, but I know it's easy for me to say, but when you're alone and sitting with the signal of loneliness or fear or overwhelm or some profound, when you're staring at the clamoring face of something that is in deep deficit of your life, resources of some nature, and really God, I know, it's like our wording, discomfort. Not being able to pay your bills, losing your housing is more than discomfort. It's terrifying, right? Like, yeah. And to greet it, to be with it, and to deeply understand its arrival and either the different moves one needs to make or what influences arrived that to you that may have been out of your control, what was in your control. I mean, again, it's only if you are with a thing that you can understand a thing. Yeah. Yeah. Right on. The biggest marker for central nervous system health, like the sort of PTSD type scale, the arguably the ADHD scale, but the sort of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, response, and resiliency scale. The easiest metric measurement of that, right, is vagal tone, right? The vagus nerves carry signals, and one's vagal tone, I mean, you can think tone like a muscle, but it really means, like, again, acoustic tone. If the like, if you think of tuning a guitar, right, the tone carried in the string when you wing that little wing nut thing. I don't know what you call those. I don't know the anatomy of a guitar. Anyway, those little tuning turner things, right? That tunes the tone of that string, right? Well, that is our vagus nerve. Boing, when it's out of, then every little, right? Our resiliency is down. Everything wings us all the way out. Response is out of calibration with input. That is what PTSD is by definition. That is acoustic in nature, not that all of the stimuli that will prompt a PTSD response is acoustic, but again, the resident nature of that system is tonal. Yeah. Mm, mm, mm. I was once told that the shamanic litmus for wellness, like if you went to your shaman or your tribal elder and said, I'm not feeling good. Of course, I'm not great at this because I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 questions. And of them, I think I can only remember 3. But the diagnostic questions that they would ask are, when were you last near water? When did you stop telling stories? And when was the last time you danced? And there may be a 4th, but I mean, even if we just hold those 3, whether it's the ocean or a babbling brook or a tiny stream or a raging river or a coast or an ocean, right? The waters outside of us and the waters within us absolutely have acoustics. Also, the quickest way to imprint waters is with frequency, is acoustic. Telling the story, right? Hearing stories, sharing one's own narrative, crafting meaning and deepening understanding. And stories change over time. Just yesterday, someone very near to me had the honor of holding deep and intimate witness of someone else sharing their story. And it was a story he had heard before. And he noticed, one of the first things he said was he noticed that the person's story had changed over time from telling to telling, that different things had held different resonance by the teller. And so the meaning, like some of the factoids had remained the same clearly, but the narrative, the acoustics of the reverberance of the happenings had shifted over time. This is profound. This is profound. This is the time that we are in. This is the dawning of the light codes and the effects that they will be having ever more on this planet. We will interface most effectively and most efficiently by engaging with them acoustically. This, 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 this. One of my teachers, Eileen McCusick, was in a conversation recently with a South African researcher, Michael Tellinger, I think his name was. And she was saying that adults who had gotten cochlear implants more than once had been stunned when they gained the capacity to hear that the sun didn't make noise. But of course it does. It's just either probably supersonic or subsonic, right? We can't hear it with our acoustic instrument, but it doesn't mean, I mean, good golly, the sun is putting out some frequencies, right? So it has its own acoustics, to be sure, but we may not register them with our tiny little delicate instruments. Oh, you guys, wow. You know, some years ago, I think it was maybe just pre-COVID, I went and saw Dr. Bruce Lipton speak, and he talked about the anatomy of a cell, I'm pretty sure it was. This is where I rely on the doctors to have their doctorates, because some of this stuff, it's like I understand intuitively and it holds resonance with me, but it's hard for me to impart it because I don't know the specifics quite like they do. But he basically described how the cell of the membrane, the outer membrane of a cell, has these tubular antennae, I guess, sort of tubular formations that pick up and receive information, right? And in the sort of Russian nesting doll law of correspondences, to scale as above, so below, that if the largest influence on a cell is its environment, right, then the largest influence on our individual selves is our field, right? And which is basically a really ginormous expression of a cell. And then if you think of Earth and like all the little trees and animals and plants and peoples all on her surface, right? And all the, marine life in the waters and all the stuff, right? So those are all sort of their own kind of input tubes, right? If you think of us little peoples walking on the earth, right? That looks like a cell with all the tubular input things, right? And so if each of us in our central channel is both inputting incoming data, frequencies, information, environment, and expressing and emanating in our most optimized and clarified self, then the whole kit and caboodle is going to be better, right? When cells don't discharge, mitochondrial function goes haywire. Yeah, that results in, what is it? Autoimmune, cancer, cellular degeneration, premature aging, atrophy, destruction of connective tissues and circulatory functions, right? So then you kind of scale model that up a couple of bazillion times. And that's what Gaia is experiencing right now. So each one of us really do matter, because the mitochondrial functioning, all the little bits on the surface of those cells, absolutely 100% matter. You matter. You have influence and input. You are precious and needed and wanted, and you matter. Yeah. All right, I'm going to shine this up with some series of harmonics, because that really resolved. That felt great. That was a CG, the sort of pentatonic scale, the notes for the harmonics. They're often considered, quote, body tuners, because, you know, punting up and out of ourselves through our crown chakra is not the goal, friends, right? It is for us to be embodied in our little individuated tubes while we're on this earth, right? We're meant to be here now and be in tone and in tune and embodied, right? And then this is my 417 and 528, which are Biofield tuning forks. And the numeric and geometric increment between these two singular frequencies is its own harmony, which is different than the musical scale. But is no less tonal and harmonic, and is absolutely as harmonic in its own pattern. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Wow, right on. Thank you for being here. I hope you felt this as much as I did. This was really amazing, an absolute joy. I'll see you out there in the expansion, friends. It is a wild time to be alive, and I'm here for it, and I'm here. You are love. You are loved. I love you. I'm here. I'll see you next time.